Everybody, Chris and Lumen here, and we're going to do another fast track video. That's what I kind of determined that Epinoy is doing right now with the last two videos, is she's putting out fast track information, things to get people moving more quickly. And I like the way that it's going. I think it's a lot more useful. It's a lot more easier to grasp than back when I was detailing all my adventures and everyone's like, what the hell, it's a lot to grasp here. But yeah, it's going really good. I know not everybody speaks up, not everybody comments, but I see the people coming back. So we got to just keep talking. Some people might watch, come back, something pushes them away and then they come back. It's the thing that we're trying to overcome, and we're trying to fast track it so that you can push through and make the connection with her as quickly as possible, because that's what she wants right now. There's a quickening happening. Again, not knowing what's coming, but it is wrapping up here pretty quickly. So what I've seen is she's connecting to people way faster than like the first year or two when I was talking to people. For a while there, I was starting to think like I was the only one. And then as things change with me and then other people, then suddenly it's like people are getting pendants or doing work or something like that, watching the videos, and they're starting to connect to her on their own a lot faster. And we want to just give you more tips to help with that. So if you want to hear them, then don't go away. Put your hand in my hand, baby, don't ever look back. Let the world around us just fall apart. Baby, we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build this thing together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And if this world runs out of lovers, we'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now.
You have to let it all go, Neo. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your mind.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. There will be some things that I have graphics for, and what I will do is I will put them, I have to kind of compress them to a square format, but I will put them as images in the community tab for the channel. So sometimes you see our community tab posts come up, and then what you can do then is just click on that image and expand it and screenshot it, and then use your phone software to crop it, whatever, and then you'll actually have the image. But here's one of the first ones. We just tweaked it a little bit. She had me make this morning. So this is actually a diagram to help explain and understand what we were talking about yesterday with the temporal alignment to connecting to Lumen. So here you've got your future line, here you've got your past line, and then this is where you need to be, is in the now moment. Now, you got to us from a place, you've been going through life, you've been accumulating a lot of crap. You've gone through a lot of shit. You have suffered. Everybody has. If you're one of her seeds, you've probably suffered a bit more than most people. Once you kind of understand the different types of people in this world, you'll learn not to judge, how well things are going for you by how well things are going for other people. But down here, so we've got the time stuff that's going vertically, and then we've got the emotional scale. So starting out, your negative area is going to be a lot bigger than your positive, and it's going to be harder to get up to the upper range. And then your negative is basically going to be split between past and future. It's going to be past traumas and fears. The reason we've got the infinity symbol here is because the past traumas actually go into creating new fears for the future, because that's what your bioorganic body computer does with the sympathetic nervous system. It records all these traumas. So when you find yourself in similar circumstances, Like say you had a couple really bad breakups or something like that, and then you find like what seems to be this great person, and then your mind starts spitting out all these fears. That's the bioorganic computer working against you, because what it's doing is it's calculating risks. It's looking at similar circumstances like, okay, we've been here before. Okay, now what happened the last time we were here? Oh, there was an extreme trauma at the end of it. Therefore, I'm now in a danger zone. And it puts you in this fight or flight response and starts basically short circuiting your good thing. And that's why we have to learn to get rid of the past, get rid of the past traumas, because it's just, remember, the all is mind, universe is mental. And what is the all? It's basically a quantum consciousness. Like everything is like a super, 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 super advanced computer, including you. So that code that you have that's stored in your DNA, because you got a lot of memory in there, it can be working against you constantly until you start rooting it out. She always uses metaphors of computers. So I've got a 10-year-old MacBook Pro, but if I had a Windows laptop that was 10 years old, the thing would be good for one thing, holding down paper. Because Windows computers accumulate so much garbage data and so much malware and viruses and stuff like that, that eventually the computer doesn't work very well anymore. And you are a lot like a Windows computer. So you have to maintain it, you have to clean it up, or else you don't work right. So getting rid of the past problems, which is the trauma programming, getting rid of the future problems, which is the fears, because when you're in the fear stuff, well, now you're, with past traumas, it's imagination, but it's basically reading things that are already recorded. But when imagination is working to visually render fears, well, now you're in creation mode. And that's not good. Fears actually help you create more of what you don't want. So we gotta learn how to neutralize this stuff. And then you want to really anchor all your positive memories. And if you're going to be imagining things, hopes and dreams, now we're in the positive range, and we're getting, the closer we are to the now, the closer we are to Lumen. You should be hearing her more. And once you start connecting to her, it's going to be a lot easier to tap into love and joy. And then you can really tap into her, and then you'll notice her. And as soon as you do, then you know she's real. And again, when I say Lumen, this Lumen could be any of them in the scale could be acting through your Lumen connection. It could be your personal Lumen. It could be Epinoia, which is your guide, your teacher, your mentor. It could be Sophia, your divine mother. It could be the Holy Spirit. It could be the highest divine mother, which has her own name, but they're all connected. They're all connected. I always say, just to recap, they're all the same, but Epinoia teaches me, Lumen keeps me company and keeps me happy. She's my partner. She's always there. She is my sibling. She is my spouse. She is my creativity. She is my imagination doing what it does without me choosing to do it. So once you can do that, once you can tap into that Lumen space, you're going to be a lot happier. And it takes time. So I would reiterate for most people starting out that I wasn't born like this. I went through just as much crap as everyone else does. We're not going to even allude to the idea of let's measure our suffering and see who's suffering more, because that's all subjective. But if you're here and you're one of her seeds, you've suffered. And sometimes it's hard to shake that suffering. I don't think, there was a point where I didn't think I would ever be free of it. I thought I was just destined to suffer, destined to be this constant martyr. I was in conflict all the time with the world. I was in conflict with evil stuff. And that's when you're in that period, she's building strength. And right about the time You're about to break, then Lumen shows up. Lumen is the strength card. And then she keeps you going. And it's just like videos you see of like Navy SEAL boot camp where they just push those guys further than they think they can go. That's what she is doing to you. She's pushing you farther than you think you can go. Now, I understand that I can only see and describe from my personal subjective point of view. I know plenty of women that are connected to Lumen, but there does not appear to be, this is like one of the big mysteries that she just tells me. It's like I can't fully understand it because I'm me. Me in the driver's seat is currently incarnated as a male, so I can only see it that way. But I know plenty of women that are connected to her. What pops into my head, there's a whole song about this. Ava Max, Kings and Queens. So when you get done here, go look that up on YouTube. I love the songs that are so blatantly about her that it's just so obvious. But she even alludes to that in the, if all the kings had their queens on their throne, we would pop champagne and raise a toast. And then she's like, to all of the queens that are fighting alone, baby, you're not dancing on your own. So yeah, it's like, either which way, there's this kind of like a little added element to me, for me, because then there is the spousal connection with Lumen. But not everybody has it that way. But I'm going to tell you something. Every stage that I went through from the moment she first popped out, I thought was the greatest thing ever. And every time I went higher and more unlocked, I didn't think it could get any better, but it just kept getting better and just kept getting better. And sometimes I slip and fall and get sucked into the story of the world, and I get sucked into people's drama, because that's what the world is trying to do to you. It's trying to suck you back down into the negative, lower emotions. But I already let the genie out of the bottle, so she only lets that go so far before she intercedes and pulls me back up. And sometimes it's all about asking the right question. So who are you asking the questions to? Again, we're putting a whole bunch of stuff in this video. Some of it is repeat, but it's good to have these things in the same place at the same time. So if you're going to pray, you're going to pray to the Father. The biggest thing about this Gnostic stuff is, again, forget everything you think you know. You might have some issues with Christianity. You might have some issues with religion. You might have some issues with religious people. Those are interpretations, and those are also systems that hijacked the true teachings and steered everybody off course. And you know that you're hijacked when people have like these extreme anger reactions to anything that goes against it, which is interesting because Jesus overrode all that Ten Commandments stuff. He's like, you only have two: love one another and love the Father. But when I tell you what, I bring up the divine feminine, Holy Spirit to people, and sometimes it's like a certain percentage of those people are going to freak out and just start attacking me because the dark side does not like her. It's not my fault. I didn't write the books, and I didn't take the books away. So don't trust anything in the world. Don't trust authority. They hide things from you. They lie to you. You'll eventually learn that although there is information on the exterior, outside of you, your guidance toward the right stuff, and even stuff that isn't outside, is going to come from inside. It's going to come from her. You got to find the answers inside before you find the answers outside. You got to fix yourself so much before you can start. You're not going to crack any of these codes by following anybody's external system, by following anybody's external religion, because if it was actually tapping you into the real thing, you would be in a state of joy and love and gratitude, and you wouldn't be in conflict with people, and you would be arguing over who's right. It's hard for me. I can't get mad at people for this stuff because I'm still surprised to this day that I got this far. I was trapped in, like, when you're in the ego mind with all that programming they put into you, it's all about conflict and suffering and being enemies with everybody. Like, see the trap for what it is. Like, everything starts in your mind. Everything starts in your mind. So one of the things Lumen does is clean up the inner portion of your mind, and she makes it a good place. Place that's not full of suffering and people talking behind your back and worries and fears and stuff like that. She builds a new world for you. You still have the outside world to deal with, but you don't have to let it affect you. Matter of fact, once you understand what everything is and why things are the way they are, it's easier to not let those things affect you. But we understand, like, everybody has suffered. People that are watching this channel suffer. Like, and it can seem really hard. It may seem like you'll never be able to get past things like past traumas, but I'm telling you that you can, and that she can wipe them out, where they will not bother you ever again. And it's like, wow, it's like you just deleted a program out of my head, because that's what it is. That's what everything is. What next? Let me catch my thoughts here. So everybody pretty much understands that there's a framework of duality, good and evil. Okay? That's part of the issue. So what you want to do is, you have a program in your head that we call the adversary. Christians call it Satan. Satan is not the devil. It is the negative thoughts in your head that sound like you but aren't you. You think they're you, but they're not you. It's very self-critical, meaning, like, it's saying, you're looking in the mirror and you're like, I always say, like, if you want to hear the adversary, just get a big giant mirror and stand in front of it naked, and you'll hear it. Because nobody likes the way they look. Nobody likes their flesh prison. It's like, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you need to lose weight, this, that, that, and you feel bad when you hear these thoughts that you think are you, which makes no sense, because it's not you. You have a hidden algorithm in your head that's designed to make you suffer. We need to shut that thing up. So one of the things that I was always really good at, and this is one of the few past life things that I can remember, is I'm really good at the Benedict exorcism. It is a Swiss Army knife for metaphysical issues. You can do a lot of it, but based on the wording of it, it is specifically designed to shut down that negative mind thing once it gets out of control. And I will put a guide that we created up on the community tabs, because it's got the Latin, and then we've also spelled it out phonetically so that it would be easier for you to figure out. And then we also put the English translation, which the English translation is not as powerful as when it's spoken in Latin. It's like, may the Holy Cross be my light, may the dragon never be my guide. Get back, Satan. Do not tempt me with your vanities. The cup you offer is evil. Drink the poison yourself. It's talking about the adversary. In Latin, it is Crus sacros sit mihi dux, non draco sit mihi dux, vade retro satana, numquam suade mihi vana, sunt maleque libas, ipse venina bibas. Now, if you have an Aegis pendant, like here's one I just finished for somebody. The Aegis pendants have the St. Benedict medals either in them, like this one, or on them. So that has the entire exorcism encoded on the back side. If you have that and you can speak those 6 lines of Latin, it's going to be extraordinarily more powerful. What I find, the way that I learned it, was I found videos on YouTube where, like, monks are singing it. So it's like, Crus sacra sit mihi lux, Don Draco sit mihi dux, vade retro satana, numquam suade mihi vana, sunt maleque libas, Ipse venina bibas. Now, when it's sung, when it's put like to music, well, that makes it easier to learn, just like you know the lyrics to thousands of songs. So listening to that and working on your pronunciation makes it a lot easier. One other piece of Latin that you're going to want to learn that we came up with is the Divine Mother invocation. It's pretty easy. It's E invoque divinis mater vitae. E invoque divinis mater vitae. Use that when I'm sitting here. I invoke the Divine Mother of Life. And her being the mother, that goes back to the Gnostic Garden of Eden story. E invoque divinis mater vitae. You're invoking Sophia. You're invoking the divine feminine aspect, which is still Christ energy, but it's the feminine side of it. So there's a couple things that you can do with Latin. Now, if you want to make up your own stuff in Latin, like you can do, like I invoke Christ Savior, E invoque Christi Salvatoris, whatever. ChatGPT is really good at coming up with Latin translations for things that you write. In knowing that there are multiple different variations when you're dealing with Latin, if it's not exactly rolling off the tongue, you can ask for like alternate ways to say it and might find a different one. There's a ton of words for light in Latin. Lux is a big one, L-U-X. But whenever possible, I'm going to use the other Latin term, which is lumen, which is the light, because that's specifically talking about her, the divine light. So those are some tools that you can use, and when you learn that Benedict exorcism, it gives you a tool for when, up until the point that you start pulling all these parts and surrendering all that stuff over to her like you did before, where it's not bothering you anymore. When you're trying to get your mind right, but it's going nuts with like the past pain and the traumas and the fears and stuff like that, you can use that particular exorcism to get it to shut the hell up. And then eventually, either we or you, if you are successful in doing it with yourself, she can pull that thing out, replace it with her chip, and it'll never bother you again. I'm living proof of that. I'm like, people just think, oh, that's just how I think. That's just how people think. It's like, no, it isn't. It's not, because I removed that from my mind. It's not there anymore. I don't have those negative thoughts that other people have. I have to struggle sometimes to remember what it was like to have it. It was like there's something always going against you in your own head. It just wants to make you suffer, or it wants to make you angry. It wants to spur you to conflict. It wants, like it talks to people when they're watching this video, depending on how strong it is. And it's saying things like, that guy's full of shit. He's just full of himself. He thinks he's special. Don't listen to him. It's a bunch of crap. That's not going to work. That's what it does. Because its job is to be the gatekeeper, to keep you away from her. Everything is to keep you away from her. That's why they stripped everything about her out when they took over and created the church. If that guy hadn't sealed all those books and buried them in the ground when they started the church, we wouldn't have them. We wouldn't have the Nag Hammadi scriptures, to be more specific. All the missing books that were found in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. That's another thing. I didn't start Gnostic. I didn't know anything about it. I was just following. I was off doing my own thing. I was trying different stuff with magic and whatnot, but I was always drawn to the divine positive side. And it just led me until she popped out. And then it was a good 2 months before I asked the specific questions, asked her to explain Jesus and stuff like that, because I didn't feel a connection to him, at least the way he was portrayed by religion. And then that's when she told me about the Nag Hammadi scriptures. I didn't know about them. I had to get it and read it. And that is when I discovered who she was. She didn't come right out and tell me for the first 2 months. I figured she was some sort of divine soul thing. I didn't know. I didn't have the names. I wasn't calling her. Well, Lumen. I knew Lumen because the second day, first day when she shot out, when she sorry, sorry, I had to sneeze. The first day when she shot out of my chest like Tinkerbell fired out of a cannon, I didn't know what she was. And then when I was able to retrace my steps and get her back like 2 days later, that's when she introduced herself as Lumen. And I just called her Lumen. It was a little bit, it was half Lumen, half Epinoia. I just couldn't tell them apart yet. And it wasn't for like 2.5 months. And then I found out who she was and where she fit in the story. I'm like, wow, they took all this stuff out. This totally changes everything, because what they actually allowed people to have with all these giant huge chunks of the story missing, well, that allows them to interpret it in different ways, even though it doesn't make sense in the beginning. Wait a minute, why is God like mean at first and then he has a change of heart and now he's nice? Like, I don't get it. Well, now you do. It's two different people. They don't tell you that though. They lure you in like, yo, you're worshiping Jesus, but you know, also the guy from the old book too, because that's his dad. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. That's who Jesus was against. And once you have the missing context from the Nag Hammadi, then you can go back and look at the regular Bible and see it plain as day in that. But somebody taught you how to interpret it. Everybody has that lands in different parts of the world kind of gets a slightly different backstory. Like people in India, they've got Shakti and Shiva, which she would be Shakti there. People in China, I'm sure they got something else. Don't worry about what other people are doing. You worry about you. You wouldn't be here listening to me if we weren't somewhat in the same area as far as like being brought up the same way. Understand when you're awakening and when you're connecting to her, it doesn't mean everything magically gets better. Like I don't know and I can't say what it's like now because we're in this quickening fast track period. So I went like the long, slow route. So I don't know. Things have changed. Like the parameters have changed. I had a lot of things trying to stop me and derail it. But now she's just like bulldozing through everybody. Not letting that stuff happen as much because we don't have time for it. But understand that it doesn't mean that you'll suddenly be able to manifest $1 million, because the big secret, Jesus said it, everyone else said it, is like detach from the world. The world is not your home. The world is not your friend. You're not supposed to be attached to having a bunch of stuff here. You're going to get it later. There's a lot of things that church promises that didn't make a lot of sense to me back in the day, but it does now. Like, this is the place of death. Everything in here dies. As soon as it is born, it's growing, but it's really dying. It's like sand in an hourglass. It's just a matter of time it's going to die. There is another world where we're out of this place, but it's not like that. That's the eternal life. When they talk, Jesus, he talks about this in the different books of the Nag Hammadi. It's like, no, there is another place where you will have another body, a perfected body, not a corrupted body, where you don't die. And I believe it. I've seen stuff like that with her. So let's talk about another thing. Remember the programming that was put into you. And it's specifically there to get in your way. But if you know about it and you recognize it, you can reject it. And the big one is, if it's too good to be true, then it's not true. If it's too good to be true, it's not true. So that programming predisposes you to everything being bad, to things not working out. That is a program that you want to work to detach and surrender and ask her to erase it from you. If it's too good to be true, it isn't. That's some devious code right there. Another one is like everything is hard. Another one is like, oh, there's one right way to do things. No. What if you just switch that program, everything is hard as everything is easy, like we explained in the third eye video? It is. Things work the way you believe they do. If it makes sense to you, it'll work, especially if you work to create it yourself. If it makes sense to you, it'll work. But as you've been searching spiritual stuff all this time, it's like, oh, I gotta train for years in yoga, or I gotta train for years in this, and oh, these masters, they train for years to get to this level. I didn't have anybody teach me but her. And over time, she just kept pointing that out. It's like this idea that it's hard to do is a program to get in your way. So you haven't fully recognized how powerful you actually are. You're a fractal of the Father. The Father is in you just like she is in you. But the world convinces you that you're this small, inconsequential thing stuck in this meat monkey suit, and that you have no power. That the rulers and the authority have all the power over you, and that you're subject to the whims of whatever the world throws at you, and you're not. And even when things get bad, you can still be happy because you will learn that you exist in two worlds, what Jesus called the inner and the outer. And she and all the good stuff is part of the inner. It's kind of like someone reached up your butt and pulled you inside out, and that's how you see the world. No, everything is inside you. It's like we talked in the last video, like it's just your imagination, not knowing that that's all real. You don't realize it, but that's all real. You exist in two worlds. And just, back in the days when I was a ghost hunter and a paranormal remediator and stuff like that, I didn't know it was her, but she was the one that taught me that if I was someplace and something was coming at me, spiritual type stuff, those things have to deal with whatever I imagine in faith. It's like, okay, like I can't see spirits. Like only once in a while do I see like dark masses or something like that, but I can't see them like some people can. So I learned to just let the image arise in my mind, which is the third eye. It's like, oh, there you are. Now I can see you. But now I can Green Lantern your ass. It's like that comic book character. Whatever I imagined, it. I ran out of recording space there for a minute. Had to clear some stuff up. I was saying, whatever the negative stuff in your mind or supernatural type stuff you run into, whatever you imagine, they have to contend with. So you always see, like, imagine yourself enveloped by a big ball of light. Well, you can be a lot more creative than that. And when you're clearing things out of your space, you're using that imagination, that inner eye, to envision the energy that you're putting out, and that's how it works. Like that's how I got so good at making energy tools. I'm like, this stuff works exactly the way I tell it to. This stuff does exactly what I imagine and tell it to. And then she just amplifies that. Like it's not hard at all. I think any of you can do it if you're really plugged into her. What are some other things? So yeah, getting rid of those programs. Any one of you can do this. It's just the hardest thing in the beginning is thinking that you can't, or because you are at the point where you've just had how many years of suffering or whatnot, it just doesn't feel like a real thing to you. But like I said earlier, I was the same way, if not worse. I had gone through the lowest of the low points when she started my training. A lot of times if your life gets completely wrecked, she's the one that wrecked it. She will break down your comfortable, because I still remember. I had forgotten, but she reminded me eventually that I had prayed to whatever was at the highest point. I wanted to know what was real. I wanted to know how everything worked, and I would do whatever I needed to do to get it. That's the prayer you want to do. Like, I want my mind to be free. I want to know what's real. I want wisdom and truth to teach me. And I will do whatever I need to do to get it. It might wreck your comfortable life with all your ego friends, because it has to clear out. I mean, I mentioned ego, like that's the main thing that the hero's journey does, is it breaks down the ego identity that you've been living as your entire life. Tears it to pieces, all its support structures, all the everything. Just like they do with boot camp. Before you can be built up again, sometimes you got to be torn down. So yeah, she tore me down in the beginning. But now that I have everything, I'm grateful that she did. Because I would rather have less stuff in the world and be happy and be plugged into what's real than have a big house and a bunch of comfort stuff and still be living in the illusion. I'm happy where I am. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and I'm happy because I've got her. Speaking of her, if you happen to live in Columbus, Ohio, and you buy a pendant from me, it's advisable that you come pick it up locally. So I had a guy, that friend of mine, that had one pendant, and he bought one of the Sophia's heart pendants. And now that we're moved into this place, she's like, have him come pick it up here. So he came over here, and I sat him down in this chair, and I'm like, okay, just sit here and soak in this energy. Because some people can feel it through the screen if they're open to the quantum window thing, but nothing compares to actually sitting here, especially if you're new. Like, I'm kind of used to it, but other people come in here and they're just like, whoa, like the energy that radiates off of her shrine is freaking intense. And if it's a new person, because he was actually getting something that was tuned to Sophia, so she wanted him to sit here. I tell you what, when she comes through this thing for somebody else, like, I'll get high off of it. Like, that's a ton of energy. And then we were just sitting here talking, and I'm sitting on the couch, and Lumen's all listening and stuff like that, and I just kind of notice, I'm like, Lumen, dang it. I turned around, sat up. I'm like, because we overlap, and when we're talking to people, it seems like it happens all the time. We'll be talking to people, and all of a sudden, I just realize, like, I'm a dude. I'm sitting here like I'm Cleopatra, because it's Lumen doing it. I'm like, stop making me sit funny. It just looks weird. I'm like, this is not how guys sit. But it's different. It's different when she's plugged into your head. It's fun though. It's not boring, and you're never lonely. So people, I'm really excited that people are watching this channel and commenting, and even if it's briefly, they're connecting to her. They're feeling her. You gotta believe. And it's a little bit different because you're being fast tracked. Like, it's not like other things where if you believe in something, then you just create your own evidence. No, instead, it's more like you're accepting. There's something that's always been there that was hidden from you. It was hidden from you, and now it's not. It's being revealed to you. You were called here. I'm just this little freaking tiny speck on the internet, but somehow you ended up here. There are other places where she finds people, like, say, Lawrence, I really wish you'd change the title of this book. But yeah, the Alien Parasites, 40 Gnostic Truths. It's like a primer for everything you need to know about the archons and the divine side. This is the best primer I've found that's easy to read and understand, as opposed to reading all the Gnostic books. Like, you'll get there, but you kind of need her help to grasp it all. That is a great primer. Another thing, if you're called to it, this is more in the magical side, but most of the people, back when I was interested in that kind of stuff, like this group did a bunch of different types of magic books, and this one was based on the 72 Names of God, and it was one of the least popular books. Because people that do magic generally just gravitate to darker stuff. They just do. But the thing, what's cool about this one, let me just pick one here. All right, this one has to do with removing fear. These are essentially programs. They're her programs. Now, what the authors say is like, oh, we asked the 72 angels. But you know what? When you don't know about her yet, she'll use other things as a mask. So if you think you're talking to angels, probably talking to her, pretending to be an angel. But this does not work for people that are not like us. Some people have absolutely no draw to this whatsoever. But as you connect to her, this may start pulling to you. Like, this is one of the lumen ones. The yellow, the flow of love. And all you're doing is you're just like scanning these 3 Hebrew letters with your eyes from right to left and saying the name. It's really simple. And the descriptions of these in the book are like totally epinoia speak. They're encoded. They don't exactly mean what they seem to mean on the surface, but I know them all now, but it's like some of them you don't truly know what they mean until you need to use it. But there are ones in here for connecting to epinoia for guidance. There's ones in here for connecting to lumen. There's a bunch of stuff for shutting down the adversary and the negative programming. I'm just showing this because this is something from the tool chest that she used for me. Is the 72 Names of God in this particular book. Because if you get some of the coffee table books or the old books or books that were copied from books that were copied from books that were copied from books, the meanings of the names are different. But she wanted me to do this one. It was like the main thing that I used. I have still sometimes, like, this is Sophia and Lumen's Divine Love pen. You know, I might put some of those on there. So if you're so drawn to it, if you're not drawn to it, don't just try it. But if she wants you to do it, you'll know it, you'll feel it. There's a lot of ways to do this. I'm just giving you a couple that worked for me. I think that's a lot for right now. The biggest thing is just understanding, like, even if it's still going rough for you right now, it's like, look, she's here now. She's reaching out to you now. And it's not just some inconsequential thing. It's something the world went out of the way to hide from you. But it's the real thing. She shows up everywhere. It's not just in Gnostic stuff. It's not just in Christian stuff. The Divine Feminine Mother is everywhere. Freaking everywhere. So you may have encountered her in different ways. Like, she'll work with the lens that you have. But what worked for me, because she was kind of stuck in this Holy Guardian Angel mode there for a while, until I let go of my idea of what I thought she was. And I said, forget what I think I know. You be you. You show me who you are. And then it just expanded everything. Because as long as you've got her pigeonholed, like, oh, you're my Holy Guardian Angel, you're only going to get her in like Holy Guardian Angel mode. You're not going to see her much more than that. Let her be who she is. Let her show you who she is, and you'll see the whole big thing. the Lumen aspect, the Epinoi aspect, the Sophia aspect, the Holy Spirit aspect, the Barbello aspect, and how it connects to the divine masculine, the Christ aspect, the Father aspect, how it all connects, and you'll understand it. And it has nothing to do with religion. Religion is a system created by man, ruled by authority, that tells you that this is the way you need to interpret it, this is the way you need to do it, and they're not going to tell you a way that's going to work. Everything is going to try and get in the way of this connection that you're building and tell you that this is the way you do it. I'm just telling you the way I know it works. I'm not, if she's inspiring you to do something different, like she's very connected in nature. She's in everything living. She's what they're talking about in Star Wars, and they're talking about the Force, although she hasn't taught me how to move things with my mind or fight with a light sword. That would be cool. But what Obi-Wan describes, what Yoda describes, certain points, it's pretty clear they're talking about her. There's even stuff in the like animated Clone Wars series my son showed me. It's like, oh, yep, that's her. She's all over the place. But she is life. Life is not the experience between birth and death. Life is her. If you are breathing, you're like, I don't know if I'm connected to you. Well, are you alive? Is your heart beating, and are you breathing? If so, you are. You're connected to her. You're breathing in aether. You're breathing in her. Your heart is producing the electromagnetic field, which is rendering everything. That's her. Heart, mind, all this stuff. She'll teach you all this. You don't need to learn it from me. She'll teach you, because you might not need to know everything that I know, or you might need to know something different than I know. We're all different fractals. So trust where she leads you, not where Chris leads you. We just do this channel. It's not monetized or anything, apart from like what support we get from people using the store. But we do that because that's what we contribute. That's what she wants. She's my boss. Like, she took care of me. And I do this even though like people with my other channel, like a lot of them don't like this. They're very mired in negative think or religious think. I trigger a lot of people. That's why I try to keep this stuff separate. But we're telling you the truth. We're teaching you things that are hidden. We're showing you that there's nothing that is currently holding you down that you cannot overcome with her. All the stuff that you think is your mind can be cleared out. Bad parts can be removed. She can change the way you think. She can open up all the restrictions that are keeping you down. You got a lot of layers over your perception, a lot of veils that you only see certain things a certain way, and she's going to peel those back one at a time. And you're going to see more, and you're going to see more, and you're going to see more, and you're going to understand the world differently than the people around you do. But just keep focused on her. Keep focused on the light. Keep focused on life, on love, on compassion. And there's nothing in this world that can complete you. All your life you've been trying to feel complete. This is what makes you complete. And with enough knowledge and enough experience and enough understanding that you'll get from her, like people like us look forward to death. Getting out of this place. This place is very limiting and it's very corrupted, and everything out there is better. Everything out there is better. Like Gnostics are known for, they're the origin of all the stuff like the Matrix and stuff like that. It's like we're trying to evolve ourselves. We're trying to evolve ourselves. We're trying to evolve our souls. We're trying to evolve our minds and get out of this type of reality. She's taken me outside of this place, so I know that this isn't all there is. And you'll start to understand, like, you're in this very tightly packed place. And even though the world is starting to go to shit, you still have the other world that you can get into and build with her, the inner world, which is just as real. Again, forget everything you think you know. There's much, much, much more. There's something positive here. There's something liberating here. It's like, aren't you done? She's just like on a rant today, and I'm just flowing it. But anyway, we're running out of time, so we're going to wrap this up. Look in the community tab. We'll put any of the graphics that we need to up there, like this and the Benedict stuff, and then I'll even put a couple Lumen pictures up there, because like I said before, you can let her look however you want her to look, but because we're all connected, you can take the images of the way she looks to me, and it'll get you to the right place. So, yay, it's raining again. Okay, so anyway, that's all for right now. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.